So today I want to talk to you about my journey as a business owner and how I went from a shop worker, so I worked in like a men's clothing and underwear store, to being a hobby blogger, to being a full-time freelancer, and how I then went on to add selling digital products to the mix, to the point where I've now made over $200,000 from my digital products, which I only noticed yesterday. And I was like, wow, okay, that happened and I totally did not realize it at all. But yes, I'm hoping that my journey will inspire anyone who hasn't started their business yet to take a leap of faith and get started, because 90 days from now, you'll wish that you started today. And I'm hoping that if I can just encourage one person to get their business started or to take it full time or think about taking it full time, then this video will have been worth it. So I'm going to start off with sipping some water. But then I'm going to start off going all the way back to 2009, because it all started back then really because I always had this dream. I did not dream to be a freelance designer or like a course creator or a teacher or any of the things that I've actually done. I really, really wanted to be a writer. It was the number one thing that I'd wanted since I was a child, and I spent every waking hour writing. Like, I was thinking about it yesterday, and I remember like being in science class and I had my science books open but my notebook hidden inside them, and I would just spend the whole class writing fiction instead of listening about science. That's how much I loved to write. And so in 2009, I think it was, I entered a writing competition, won third place, and the prizes were consultations with professionals in the industry. So it was people like agents and authors, different people like that. And I don't remember anything anybody said except one agent who told me, if you want your work to be discovered, start a blog. And at the time, I kind of knew what a blog was, but not too much, because this was 2009 and not many people had them, and it was starting to become this in thing. So I decided to create a blog for my writing, and I made it on, I think I made it on Tumblr. I don't know. I've been on Blogger, I've been on WordPress, Tumblr, and quite a few different platforms. So it might have been Tumblr. I can't really remember. But I started my writing blog, and then in 2012, that evolved into a fashion blog, because I remember super clearly, I was sat on a beach and I was reading this fashion magazine. And I don't know if you guys have ever heard of Susie Bubble. Comment if you have. But she was inside this magazine. This was the first time I'd ever encountered a fashion blogger before. I didn't really know that it was a thing. And I remember feeling so inspired, and I was like, oh my gosh, I would love to do this. This is the direction I want to move my blog into. And so that's what I did. I decided to turn it into a fashion and lifestyle blog, and it led to lots of really cool partnerships. So I got to work with Free People. I still have the boots that they sent me. I got to work with Jules, and I also still have the wellies that they sent me. Also, side note, if anybody from the US is listening to this, I would love to know, do you guys call them wellies or something else? Or do you just call them like rain boots or something? I don't know. But we call them wellies. So I got to do lots of cool stuff for the blog, but I didn't really earn money from it. I was just getting like gifted items from brands like Jules and Free People, and I would just photograph them, and then that would be it, and I would get to keep the free stuff, but I wasn't making an income. And all this time, I'd been redesigning my own blog over and over again, just simply because I found it so much fun. And because I found it so much fun, I would literally redesign my blog once a month, which is really ridiculous, but that's what I did. And what that led to was my blog design getting a lot more attention than other things, which I wasn't too happy about at first, but then I started to realize, like, hey, I can actually make money potentially from doing this, and it's something that I really enjoy doing. So to begin with, I obviously didn't have much experience except designing my own blog, so I decided to start doing it for free for my blog readers and for basically anybody who got in touch about blog design. And actually, I'm going to show you Hopefully you can see. There we go. Hopefully you can see this. This is a screenshot of my blog back then. It's not the first design that I did, but it's one of them. My blog was called Flower Child, and this was like just like a fashion blog. And this was right when I was starting to get into design, and mainly blog design, like mainly and only blog design. So let me just go back to me. Okay, so that was the blog that I initially had that started everything for me, like started my entire business journey. I honestly do not think that I would be where I am right now if, number one, that agent hadn't told me to start a blog in the first place, and number two, I wasn't so passionate about blogging. But basically, from there, I went on to land my first sort of paid design, but that wasn't until after I'd interned for a bunch of other designers. So I interned for them. I did so much free work or super, super cheap work so that I could get experience and testimonials. And I could also like experiment with my client process. I also feel like I bought a million books. I feel like I bought a million books. I've still got quite a lot of them. Do you guys remember the book Creative Ink? I can't remember who it was from, and I don't have my glasses on, so I can't read it from here. But I devoured that book and so many others. I bought typography books, graphic design books, business books. I was all about books back then. I just spent so much time learning not only how to design, but how to freelance. And then, like I was saying, I landed my first paid design, which was a £150 goth vegan blog. You guys, it was a goth vegan blog, which is so not what you would imagine. But I was just grateful that anybody was going to pay me to actually do something that I love and something that I needed experience in. And at the time, I got this job, this £150 goth vegan blog, simply by reaching out to a design studio at the time. I don't think that they are around anymore, but they were pretty big at the time. They were called Freckled Nest Design Studio. Comment if you've been around for like 7 to 9 years, like I have. Comment below if you can think back 7 years and remember Freckled Nest Design Studio, because I loved their designs. They made like really cute, like vintage inspired designs. And at the time it was a woman called Leanne, and it was Kyla Roma, I believe. She's a coach now, but back then she designed. And they both ran Freckled Nest. And I remember just contacting them and saying that if they had any design projects that they couldn't take on or that weren't a good fit for them, I would love them to send them along to me so that I could like gain some experience from it. So Leanne ended up giving me this referral for this vegan cartel goth blog. So that was my absolute very first design. I think it was designed on Blogger. I cannot quite remember. I mean, you can tell how old it is because you can see this button here that says follow via Bloglovin. I don't know if you guys remember the Bloglovin platform, but hey. So that was a start. That was the beginning of my freelance design journey. And for anybody who also doesn't know, this would be a really great point for me to point out, is that I'm actually 100% self-taught. So if you are self-taught, I want you to know that you can become just as good at your craft as someone who has had a formal education in it. I know that there are lots of differing opinions around that, but that's my opinion. And I think depending on who your target market is, it does depend on who your target market is, but if you want to be a freelancer and work with anyone except corporate businesses, then good news. Clients don't actually care if you're self-taught. They just care if you are good at your job and if you are going to get them the results that they need. And that is it. So I want anybody who's self-taught, who's listening to this right now, who struggles with fraudy feelings or struggles with imposter syndrome, to know that if you put in the work and you really, really try your best to learn how to be a professional in your craft, you can absolutely do this, because I did it. And I know so many others who have done it, who have gone on to create $1 million businesses. So trust me when I say that you have nothing to worry about and you have nothing to feel fraudy about. Kirsty says, I still love my blog living feed. Oh, that's awesome. I didn't even know it was still around, to be honest, Kirsty, because I just haven't used blog living in so long. And I think that I got rid of mine, which is a shame, because I think I'd built up quite a lot of followers on there and I was just like, forget it, I'm going to get rid of it, which is a real shame. I don't know why I did that, but hey ho. Okay, so Kirsty has been around for the same kind of time as me, back in the day when everybody was all about blog living. So fast forward to 2012, and I was working in a store selling men's clothing and underwear, and I still had my blog, but I didn't have an official design portfolio. And I'm actually going to say at this point, I'm going to go slightly off what I was going to say and then come back to it. But I actually left formal education when I was 16, and I waitressed for a while, and I also worked in telesales, which, if you guys are unfamiliar with that term, it basically is that annoying person that phones up your home and tries to sell you stuff. So yes, I did that job for half a day before quitting, and then I got this job in the men's clothing and underwear store for a few years. So I've only got formal education up to the age of 16. So I do not even have A-levels, let alone a university degree, which I think sometimes when I tell people that, they're like, oh my gosh, that is so bad. But I mean, I think that's a fun fact. And I think that for a while I was kind of insecure about it, but now I am grateful because I have no debt and I have a really profitable business for someone in their mid-20s. So just a fun fact. But basically, I remember going back to that job in the men's underwear store. I can remember sitting in the stock room and pretending to sort out stock, and I would stalk freelancers' blogs and I would look at these beautiful brand designs on Pinterest, and I would like curate Pinterest boards filled with, you know, photographs of beautiful workspaces. And I would think to myself, one day I am going to be that person, that woman that has that incredible workspace and makes money doing what she loves and does not have to spend all day in a soul-sucking job, sitting in a stockroom staring at, you know, photos of where she wants to be. And so around that time, I decided to make the most of my audience, the audience that I had for my fashion and lifestyle blog, by using Twitter, which was I don't know why, but it was my favorite social media platform back then. And I feel like Twitter was a bigger thing for small business owners back then than it is now. So I went on Twitter and I just basically tweeted that I was going to sell blog designs for £50 to the first, like, however many people that hired me. And within a few days, I had surprisingly booked a ton of clients. I had surprisingly booked enough clients that it actually matched my monthly wage that I made at that job. And that's when I realized that I could actually make a living doing something that I enjoy and not just doing something just because it provides me with money. And so if anybody has questions about quitting their day job, now would be a great time to drop them in a comment. But now we're going to fast forward to 2014. And by this point, I had created my own website and I had registered my business, and it was called Betty Red Design. And I'm going to show you what that looked like as well. By the way, comment if you can remember Betty Red Design, because I know that there are still plenty of you who DM me sometimes who are like, I didn't know that was you, or you're like, oh, I have been following you for so many years that I can remember you back then. This is my first ever portfolio site, Betty Red Design. It was super simple, but it did its job. So if you can remember this, go ahead and comment. I would love to hear from you. So I'm going to go back to my face. Okay, so that was what my first portfolio site looked like. And then around 2015, I rebranded under my own name because I found that a lot of people called me Betty. which obviously is going to happen. I don't know why I didn't think that that would happen. I think that I just stumbled across this cute idea for a name, and I was like, this is super cute and this gives off the vibe that I want my brand to give, so I'm going to go with it. And then when people started calling me Betty and getting really confused and thinking like, who is Nisha? I was like, okay, I'm just going to use my own name. So this was then what my next site looked like, which again was super simple. And it has a very similar logo to what I have right now. I haven't really changed my logo much since then, except changing the word designs to Woolery, because my brand is now so much more than a design service business. So that was me, and around that same time, 2015-ish, I went from charging really low amounts before then to charging around $4,000 for branding, which I was very happy with. But I remember taking like a big leap. It was something like, before I went to 4,000, it was something like $800. So I put it up by a few thousand, but I still didn't stop booking clients, thankfully. And at the same time, I also started to coach other freelancers, and I launched a membership called Freelancers, which again, comment if you can remember that, and comment if you actually were a member of my membership. It was my first product ever, which I don't recommend doing if you've never launched a digital product before, because a membership can be pretty overwhelming because it has a lot of moving parts. But I loved the women in that membership. I loved them so much. And to this day, I can still remember so many names like Ashley and Krishna and Kaylee and just like all these different people. I can remember their names. I remember the URLs. Like, we were such a tight-knit membership. And because of that, I do kind of miss it, and I kind of wish that I had stuck it out. But I didn't, because during that year, there was a point where I was just suffering with burnout. And I know that I've mentioned this in a couple of my webinars before, but I was basically working like crazy hours trying to people please all of my clients. And I just had to say enough was enough. And this isn't the kind of business that I want. And hustling may work for certain personalities, but for this INFJ, it most certainly did not. So I simplified and I streamlined. And I only worked like 3 to 4 days a week since then. And I just embraced a more manageable, more sustainable, slower way of doing business. And then we move on to 2016-ish. The reason I put ish on the end is because honestly, when you've been in business for 7 years, all of the years tend to just blur into one. And it's like, I can no longer look back and say very specifically that this is the year I did this and this is the year I launched that, because I just don't know. But 2016-ish is when I launched 2 ebooks. And ebooks are not the most profitable thing, but whenever freelancers ask me what they should launch if they're looking to get into digital products, an ebook is a really good place to start if you have literally zero experience with digital products, because they're so easy to create and sell. And I'd done a membership and that was quite a big thing. So I wanted to continue dipping my toes in the digital product pool, but with something smaller. So I chose ebooks. And that's when I launched my ebook Social Splash. And then I launched an ebook called the Freelance Marketing Plan. And very fun fact that I don't think I've ever shared before about the Freelance Marketing Plan is that it was actually created in 48 hours with no prior plan to do that. Like, I did not start Monday of that week and think to myself, I'm going to create an ebook this week. I just ended up doing it because I was co-hosting my very first webinar with Caitlin Batcher, and at the time she had an Instagram course and I have an ebook Social Splash. So we were going to like pair them together. And I remember her asking me, do you have a fast action bonus that we could add to it? And I didn't. But for some silly reason, I was just like, yep, it's called the Freelance Marketing Plan and I will get it to you by Friday. So I just very sporadically decided to create another ebook. But I'm super glad that I did, and we've updated it each year, and it's not available, before anybody asks, from my website at this time. But we usually make it available like one weekend per year. So moving on to 2017 until 2019. So the last 2 years, I have also launched my now best-selling course, Organize and Automate, which has over 650 students, which I'm so happy about. And they've all come out of that, well, not all of them obviously, because I haven't spoken to all 650 students, but so many of my students have come out of that course with completely transformed mindsets, way less stress. I've had plenty of students double their income because they can now take on double the amount of clients without, so much stress and overwhelm. I've had people, cut their work week in half, streamline their business so much they can take Fridays off. And I'm just super glad that I've been able to help people to go from feeling burned out to feeling less pressure and less stress in their business, and also help people turn their clients into referral machines, which is what this course is all about. And for anyone who doesn't know what the course is, it basically teaches you how to organize your business and level up your client process so that you can stop stressing, start wowing your clients, and turn them, like I said, into referral machines. And when I look back, I feel like really deeply proud and amazed when I think back to the girl who hid out in the stockroom, staring at pretty workspaces on Pinterest and dreaming of the day that she would one day have one. And I feel proud because I've made that happen. And I think that that girl would be really happy if she could look 7 years into the future and see that her dream happened and that her dream is still going strong. So I'm hoping that my business journey inspires you, if you haven't already started your business, to take a leap of faith and get started, because starting a business has led me to the life of my dreams, a life where I get to do fulfilling work 3 to 4 days a week and travel the world. And it's a life of so much freedom and flexibility. So I hope that my story shows you that businesses can change your life. I also hope that my story shows you that businesses don't just grow overnight. They take years of work, and you shouldn't be frustrated with your business if it isn't growing as fast as you see other businesses growing. Because I know that there are so many overnight success stories out there, and you can feel like, well, why is my business not making that amount of money? Or why is my business not growing that fast? Or why am I not getting as many clients as her? But just know that growth can be slow and steady, and that is okay. And it's still something to be wildly, wildly proud of. I also hope, I hope that my journey that I've shared with you today will show you that you don't have to hustle to build a profitable business. Work smarter and not harder. I have apart from that time when I was like super burned out that I told you about, I've never worked 5 days a week. I've always worked 2 to 4 days a week. And in fact, last year was my most profitable year, and I traveled for 7 months of that year. So I lived in South Korea, and I went to Bali, and I went to a few other places as well. I traveled for 7 months of that year, and I worked 2 days a week during that time, and I still had my most profitable year. So I want you to take something from that, because I've always tried to put my health, my well-being, and my lifestyle ahead of my business, and it didn't lead to overnight success. Like I explained to you I've been in business for like 7 years, and it's been a nice, slow, steady growth for my business. And that's okay, because I think that my the way that I've worked and the way that I've built my business around my life has led to something better than overnight success. And that is a sustainable kind of success. A business that I don't feel like I need a break from, a business that is simple and fun and supports a lifestyle that I am obsessed with, a lifestyle where I can just travel as much as I want. And I really want to encourage you to build a business like this. So instead of choosing to work crazy hours and hustling your soul into the ground, choose to build a business around the lifestyle that you want. Because I know that many freelancers do this where they feel like they have to work all the time, and if they're not working, then they're just wasting time. But I also have heard from so many freelancers, including one just last week in my DMs on Instagram actually, who said that she works so hard and she will not finish work until midnight, and she'll wake up at 5:30 a.m. and she'll get right back at it. But she's working all those hours and working really hard, and doesn't really feel like she's moving forward any faster than, so what I mean is, like, what is the point in that? What is the point in putting all of those hours in but not moving forward in your business very fast at all? I feel like sometimes freelancers can put in all of these crazy work hours, but then if you're not getting out what you put in, if your return on investment is not that high, then you're doing something wrong. But you can sometimes get so trapped in the way that you work that it becomes a habit. So working those crazy hours, it just becomes habitual for you, and you start to not track your return on investment, and you start to not even realize that you are working way too many hours for the actual money that you are getting out of it. But if you focus on working smarter and not working harder, then you truly will build a profitable and sustainable business. And I think that sustainability is something that is often put in the background, because profit is obviously so important, but sustainability is equally as important. And so I want to leave you guys with that. I hope that that has inspired you in some way or form. Ellie says, loving listening to your story, such an inspiration. Oh, thank you so much. I'm super glad to hear that. Kirsty says, I'm currently listening on headphones at my day job, which I hate. Just dropped 1 day a week to focus on my business, so it's a super slow transition. I'm sure that I was in Freelancers for a while. I definitely remember those days though. Yeah, Kirsty, that's so awesome. And I want to say, kudos to you for dropping that 1 day a week at your day job to work on your business, because that may seem at the moment like not enough time for you, but I worked my day job full time, and I 5 days a week, and I still built my business. So I know that you can do it with that 1 day a week if you, like I just said, if you work smarter and not harder. So if you think about the tasks that you're going to prioritize on that 1 day per week, don't just waste that day on Instagram or doing things that have never proven success to you before. Think of the things that have gotten you clients before. Think of the things that are going to move you forward the most and the fastest, and prioritize those. And I promise you'll grow your business much faster. And she says, definitely inspiring, feels like a long way off, but definitely going to keep going. You absolutely should, Kirsty, because honestly, my business is one of the things that I'm most proud of in my whole life. And I am just so thankful that I actually did it and took it full time, because without that, I would not have done half of the things that I have done with my life. I've lived in South Korea for half a year. I lived in Central America by the beach. I've lived in New York. I have just really been able to create a life that I'm obsessed with and a life that I love. And for some people, travel may not be that motivation. It could be that you have kids and you just want to spend more time with your kids. You just want to be able to take them to school and back every day, or you just want to be able to go on more date nights with your husband, or whatever it is for you. If you build a business, it can help you create that lifestyle. And that's why I'm so passionate. Whenever I talk to people who haven't taken their business full time yet, I'm always like, you've got to give it a try. You've got to just see how it goes, because I think it was in James Wedmore's podcast recently where he said something that really hit me, and I just loved it so much. He said, if you're not doing what you love, you're not doing what you're meant to do. And I just love that so much. If you're not doing what you love, you're not doing what you're meant to do. So, Kirsty, you've totally got this, girl. I know you do. And Roger says, yes, so good. I have 2 young kids and cherish these years. Finding ways to shrink down my work week is a huge priority so I can spend more time with them. Yes, Roger, that's exactly what I was just saying. For some people, it's travel, like me. And for other people, it's spending more time with your kids and not missing out on these years while they're young before it all of a sudden vanishes and they're all grown up. So you guys have got this. You can do this. You can work smarter and not harder, and you can actually create a profitable business while not working your butt off and not working 5 days a week. And I really hope that this video has shown you that that's possible. And yeah, if you have any questions about that, about working less days per week and working smarter and not harder, then go ahead and drop them in the chat box, because I would love to talk about that. I think it's one of the topics that I love to talk about the most, but I don't do very often in my business for some reason and in content. And yet in real life, when I talk to business owners and when I talk to my friends, it's always the topic that comes up, because I'm usually like the only one that doesn't work 5 days a week. So if you have any questions about that, then just let me know.